Warning, F-bombs are armed and may be dropped. Okay, I'm late to the party. So here's my story about how I became actually a shooter in general. I was about 8 years old at the time, and my old man was a hospital licensing inspector for the state of California. He was working out of the Redding, California office, and he has this hospital up in Montague that he's got to inspect. No big deal, it's a routine inspection, right? Not so routine this time. The owner of the hospital had been playing a lot of games with meds not being given, with Medicare being billed when he wasn't providing services, people being shuffled around, basic cleanliness not being enforced. We're not talking Walter Reed grade here, but we're talking pretty bad. His biggest crime, though, was billing Medicare. Now, believe it or not, Medicare doesn't like you billing them if you're not providing the service that you say you are. That's what got him in the most amount of trouble, and he's looking at prison time now, thanks to my dad. Or thanks to my dad's inspection, anyway. Flash forward about 6-8 months, I guess it was. Now there's a trial, an actual you're going to prison if you're found guilty trial. Up until this, Mom and Dad kept the guns locked away and hidden from me and my brother. Right about this time, me and Mark got into the guns and chased each other around a little bit. Don't tell my dad. Go ahead and tell my mom. She's passed away anyway, but don't tell Dad. All right? We did that. That happened. I think it was about a week and a half later, Mom and Dad tell us they're going to take us out to go shooting. Yay! We're going to go shooting! You know, we're 7 and 8 year olds. We're 7 and 8 year old boys. All right? So we went out. We went shooting. It was Dad's .22s, the shotgun, and one other gun I think was lent to us by a friend of Mom's actually, and the pistols, which was a .38 revolver at the time. That's all we had. Dad carried that around actually when he was traveling because he did a lot of those lonely country roads that wind so hard that you end up going backwards to go forwards. You know the kind I'm talking about? He'd hit deer. And so he'd take the gun out of the back seat and put the deer out of its misery. Since he left Vietnam, that is the only time my dad has touched the gun for actual use purposes. And now we're going to go shooting. And so me and Mark, we saw how a revolver works, we saw how a semi-auto works, a shotgun, a semi-auto pistol. I remember we shot a semi-auto pistol. I can't really remember the rest. 43 now, so, you know. All of this other stuff is going on in the background. We're not being told. Right about the same time that me and Mark are chasing each other around with Dad's guns, we thought Mom and Dad knew, and that's the reason we were going shooting, or at least that's the reason I thought. My school's principal got a phone call. It was a very, very interesting phone call. It was a very detailed itinerary of Happy Valley School District bus number 10's route, down to the minutes. Takeoff time, drop time, drop time, drop time, turnaround time, drop time, drop time, drop time, return time, reload time, takeoff time, drop, drop, turn around, drop, drop, return. the message was received very loud and very clear. That's the reason Mom and Dad took us shooting. Flash forward, month or so, and here's the trial. It's on now. This guy, this hospital administrator, the one who's going to prison, judge calls a recess in the trial. Guy walks up to my dad and says, "You have a very pretty wife and 2 beautiful children. It'd be a shame if something happened to them." Well, don't ever threaten a combat veteran. Just don't do it. I know better. I never even had to be told better. My dad threatened to kill him right then and there. And if I recall the story according to Dad, I think according to Dad correctly, he also said something about they'll never find your body. Well, Schmuckatole ran and told his attorney, the investigator, Mike threatened me. He threatened my life. He threatened to kill me. So his attorney had to tell the judge, my client says the state's star witness threatened to kill him. And the judge says, come here, both of you. I want to hear what really happened. He got the story, and the judge decided to let it go at that. You threatened him, he threatened you, both of you, go sit down, go to your separate corners, and let's get on with the rest of this. That was the weekend me and Mark went shooting, the first time. We didn't go shooting again for, at least 8 years. So flash forward the 8 years. I'm in school, I'm in high school, and one of my classes was law enforcement related. So there's a shooting segment. I have to go shooting, that's part of the class. So I did. I realized I don't really like shooting that much, and I suck at it. It took me, I think, three tries to finally pass range. Okay, that's just the way I am. All right? I started hearing in the background the politicians, Clinton, Biden, the rest of them saying, if we ban the guns in the schools will be safe. And I'm at least old enough and intelligent enough to wonder, is that really going to work? Well, you know what? Maybe it will work if we put in the security measures necessary. Like armed guards. That was what it was. And that was the start of me becoming a gun control supporter. This is 94. So when Safe Schools Act came along, I was nominally supportive of it. Flash forward to 1999. If I need to explain this to you, I will in another video. But I got a real loud and clear message of how good Safe Schools Act worked. We all did. Everybody that remembers that, or is old enough to understand, got that message loud and clear. My support for gun control was cracking. Really, that was a jackhammer moment. Over the course of the previous 5 years, my support had increased to the point where I was willing to entertain the option, the notion, of banning all the guns and taking them and see what happens. My support for gun control kind of eroded, but it stayed relatively flat. It went down and then it flattened out. And I'm sitting about here, scale 1 to 10, about 3 or 4. And 2005 comes along. Now, 2005 was a watershed year for me in this department. The military had adopted the M95 as the M5 pistol. For those of you that are old enough to remember, it was that 9mm that Bill basically forced the military to take to replace the 1911. It's an okay gun, you know. I also know that I suck as a shooter. All right, I can barely hit the broadside of a barn if I'm standing in it. And there just happened to be a local store that had a huge government inventory surplus sell-off of these M95s, which is the M9, which is what I'm supposed to be carrying in the Guard anyway. So okay, I go and buy one. I figure, you know, I'll go out once a month and shoot and try and get better. Flash forward to 2005 now. A friend of mine, I'm in Yorktown area, and a friend of mine says to me, "Hey Skids, you still got your M9? Yeah, sure, why? Let me see it." Right there in the hotel room, he makes an exact perfect clone of the lower receiver. Now in the United States, that is legally the gun. Says, hop in, let's go. So we go out this empty field, actually empty half of a field next to a road. Nice, beautiful berm right there. I swear to God, we must have fired 1,000 rounds, which through my 2-mag clips was really impressive. That was a lot of reloading time. And hey, it's my gun. I get to shoot it too, right? We're all done for the day. I say, okay, great, fine. But all you proved is you can make a lower receiver. Excuse me, all you've proven is you can make a frame, because my nomenclature then wasn't too good. Takes the gun apart, and he shows me the barrel. The barrel is technically the most sophisticated part of any firearm. It's a pressure-bearing unit. It might be moving, especially in a blow forward, but generally speaking, it doesn't move too much, but it's the pressure-bearing unit. It's the piece that's going to fail the worst of any other piece on the gun. He shows it to me, and I noticed that the tip was spray painted black. I don't know if it was when I went to take a shit or what, but at some point he'd swapped my factory barrel out for his homemade barrel. You could actually see the little scratches from where he made it himself. That moment destroyed my support for gun control. He had made the most important piece, and to hear him tell it, it was on nothing more than a Harbor Freight special lathe. Excuse me. Oh, and a jigsaw. I think he said he used a metal jigsaw, or bandsaw. Yeah, that's right. How do you defeat this? How do you defeat the ability of somebody to make a gun? He made all of the important parts himself. The part that is legally the gun in the United States, he made that, and I watched him make it from a 0% blank. Now I know it was a mini mill. Okay, sorry, my bad. But he did that right there in the hotel room with me watching CNN. We all have a past. And from a 0% blank. Tell me how you're going to beat that. Okay. Flash forward now to 2013. 2013, what about it? There's talk, there's thoughts, there's maybe we should start talking about gun control again. Well, no. I've seen it fail. I watched it fail. right? I didn't come out and say mandatory carry yet. But as I go back over some of my old material, I realize that's the direction I'm already headed. I'm saying things like, I would rather everybody carry than nobody. Everybody have a gun rather than nobody. It's safer that way. I remember somebody actually said, wait a minute, what about criminals? I actually said, yeah, I guess so. I remember looking at it as I'm looking over this old file, thinking, oh, well, yeah, because then I'll have a gun and we're even. The next year was the first time I said the words mandatory carry or mandated carry. Everybody should be mandated to carry. That's the true story about how a gun control supporter became mandatory carry and what got me into shooting and why I now carry. Keep calm, mandatory carry on, because the reality doesn't work. It doesn't work otherwise. I'm sorry. I didn't say I like it. I said that's the way it is. Mandatory carry on.